Hi, everyone. It is Tanya Hertz here, and I am going to talk to you a little bit more about some of the key leadership styles. And but first, we're going to talk about alternative dispute resolution, where we left off on the last video. So, alternative dispute resolution is uh, it's essentially what we use in management when we could not come to an agreement between the interested parties. So it's when we need to bring in a neutral third party to resolve a dispute. And um, ADR can be alternative dispute resolution, can be either through mediation or arbitration. Both are very similar. The primary difference between the two is arbitration is binding, whereas mediation is not. Mediation is, and both arbitration are, bringing in that neutral third party to hear the dispute, to make recommendations. Through mediation, we still have the recourse of moving forward and perhaps going to arbitration or going to a trial. But with arbitration, it's a binding settlement. So whatever the arbitrator actually decides, we actually have to follow those recommendations. So back to leadership styles. There are many different types of leadership styles uh, that that can be effective, and some are more effective than other. But primarily, when we're looking at styles, we're really looking at how leaders make decisions and how they control power and share power. Um, so when we look at why some are more effective than others, some leaders are more effective than others, it has to do with a number of causes, but we can boil it down to two primary causes, and that's who they are and how they behave. So, leadership emergence is who emerges as a leader or who's seen as a leader, and that's more important who that person particularly is, the leader. Um, More important than actual efficacy of the leader or leader effectiveness. Um, when we look at leadership traits versus behaviors, really behaviors are more important when you're actually talking about leader effectiveness. But leader emergence, so who's viewed as a leader, that's when traits come into it. So um, traits that make a big difference, of the big five: personality, conscientiousness, agreeableness, neuroticism. All of those big five have an impact on whether or not someone will emerge as a leader. uh, Not necessarily that they'll be good as a leader, but whether or not they'll emerge. Their level of energy, their ability to tolerate stress, their self-confidence, charisma, etc. And when you look at leader emergence, those personality traits, they make a difference, right? Looking at things like extroversion, we see things, studies where people will rate a leader as much higher just because that person is extroverted. Now, things like cognitive ability, stress tolerance, uh, even extroversion to some degree does have an effect on leader efficacy or effectiveness. Uh, some more than others, some more than others. But when you ask the question, are leaders born or made? Well, leadership is a leadership can be taught. Leadership can be taught, and people can become better leaders. But there are some traits that are innate in leaders. Okay, excuse me. So when we are looking at the leadership styles, we look at how how the leader chooses, how they make decisions, and not necessarily what they decide, but how they decide, right? How they decide. So an autocratic leader tends to make the decisions on their own, uh, without much feedback or input from their followers. And all of these styles are on a spectrum from high leader control to high follower control. Um, moving down, consultative leaders tend to present the problem to the followers or to the employees. He or she will get their input, but then they're still going to make the final decision on their own. Facilitative leaders tend to present the problem to the group of employees, to their subordinates, and then ask them to be part of the decision-making process. And the leader's voice in facilitative leadership has the exact same weight as any of the other employees. And a delegative leader will just give the employee the responsibility without actually even weighing in on the decision necessarily. So there's a model of leadership that I love. It's called the time-driven model of leadership, and it is it's a model that shows that when we're making decisions and choosing between which of these different styles to use when delegating, not just not we don't want to just delegate work to our employees, but we delegate the decision making to a large part. And when we want to choose which of these styles to use, this model is very successful, the time-driven model of leadership, because we're, as leaders, you're not just one style of leader, of a leader, or don't use just one style of decision making. It's about what's best for which situation. So this model looks at 7 areas and makes predictions about which of the different styles of leadership would be most effective based on your answer to these 7 facets. And it's a really effective model. In one study, it found that using the model resulted in effective decisions almost 70% of the time, where when leaders didn't follow the model, they only had effective decisions about 22% of the time. And it's because leaders' instincts usually violate the model, right? It's a great model because it teaches you as a leader to use the right choice, what scientifically has the highest probability of succeeding. And we do know that leaders in general will overuse either the consultative leadership style, usually consultative, and then they'll underutilize autocratic and facilitative. So they're less likely to make decisions totally on their own, or to make a decision with the input, right? Facilitative is with the input of the subordinates, and having that same sort of weight in their voice. So this model looks confusing, but please don't be confused by it. It's not scary. It's a pretty straightforward model. You just move along the model, answering questions about the decision, right? And if it's high or low, you just kind of follow it. It's like a choose your own adventure book, but it's a choose your own adventure decision-making tool. So you look at this model, and let's say you have to make a decision about, I don't know, let's say something like, you need to decide whether or not to, let's say something like, you need to decide whether or not to get an espresso maker for the break room. Okay, something, not that big of a deal, right? You're trying to decide, do I want to spend $150 and get an espresso maker? So you start here and you say, is the decision significant? So significance, right? Is this going to make a huge difference on the livelihood of the organization? No. So it's low, right? So that'd be the L. So we go to L. How important is it that that I'm committed, and that all of the subordinates, all of our employees are committed? Is it really important that they're committed to this decision? Well, no. I mean, who cares if they are committed to the espresso machine or not? So that's low also. So then we go down here again, L. So it looks like you don't have to answer the rest. They're all dashes. It's autocratic is the style I should use. So that's pretty straightforward, and that makes sense. Who cares what the employees think about this, getting an espresso machine in the break room? no need to bother them with this. Now, let's say we have a decision about whether or not we should change our marketing approach and actually start podcasting, right? Okay, so that's different kind of decision entirely. So let's start at the beginning. Is it significant? Well, yeah, it's pretty significant because this is our entire marketing campaign. So let's go high there. Now, how important is it that the employees are committed? Well, actually, this is something that's real that I'm working on right now. So I know that it's very important that the employees are committed, because if they're not committed, then it's going to fail. I can't do it on my own. We need them to be on board. So that's also high. So then leader expertise. What's my level of expertise with podcasting? It's actually pretty low. So then we'll go to the L for the next one, L. And then the next question is, what is the likelihood that the employees are committed to this? Well, I'm going to say that the likelihood that they're committed is actually pretty high. And so high. And then the next question is, do we have a shared objective? Are we both on the same page? Are they, do they have the same goals that I have? Well, I would say on that one, it's actually, I would say probably pretty high. Shared objective is pretty high on this one. Do they have any expertise in that? No, I know for sure that they don't. And then, what's their level of skills in this, teamwork skills in this? I would say on this one, it would probably be, well, it's irrelevant because we're already at consultative. So consultative style, that's the type of leadership that I should use. That's the type of leadership decision I should use, style I should use. Okay. So it's actually a really great system. It works really well for decision making. So there are many different leadership styles, like we said, autocratic, democratic. One we didn't talk about was the laissez-faire and charismatic. Laissez-faire is a leadership style that tends to be not very effective. It's hands-off leader. Now you think laissez-faire would be like delegative, but it's not. This is not. This is less about the decision making and more about the behavior now of the leader, the behavior. So leaving hands off, laissez-faire. Also, these are the charismatic type of leaders tend to be more transformational than transactional. Transactional. There are 3 levels of transactional leaders. Passive by exception, where the leader will wait for the mistake and then correct them. Then there's active by exception, where the leader will monitor for mistakes, but then when somebody does something wrong, he or she'll correct them. And then the highest level of transactional leadership would be a contingency or contingent reward. And that's where the leader will consult with the subordinates or the employees on what need to be done, and then essentially give them rewards for adequate performance. So it's almost like, for me, it seems almost like you would do with kids. The style of motivating them is by giving them rewards for things, pizza parties and and bonuses and things like this. It's not really the kind of it's not a high level of leadership. It's effective. It can be somewhat effective, and it's higher than some of the others, definitely higher than the first 3, but it's not transformational. A transformational leader is an inspirational leader. This is the kind of leader that they really inspire people to want to work with them. They inspire people to share in their vision, and it provides meaning to the work of the leader. To the work of the follower. It's the leader is a role model. The leader is someone to look up to. The leader who cares about their followers. They care about their followers' potential. They help people to look at problems from a different approach. I mean, these are the kind of people that you just want to work for. You want to be around them and you want to work for them. So Transformational is essentially the opposite of transactional or laissez-faire leadership. Transformational leaders are few and far between. One study found that less than 20% of leaders are transformational leaders, but those are the kind of people that you really want to work for. And the 4 I's of transformational leadership: idealized influence. So behaving in ways that earn the trust and respect of the subordinates or the followers. They want to identify with this person. They want to be with this person. They want to emulate the leader. They're charismatic, right? Charismatic leaders. They inspire people and motivate people. So inspirational motivation. They foster enthusiasm for and commitment to a shared vision. Intellectual stimulation is important to transformational leaders. They challenge the followers to be creative and to be innovative, to think outside of the box, to do things differently. And individualized consideration means that that these leaders will behave in ways that help followers to realize their full potential. They'll coach, they'll develop, they'll mentor, they'll do what it takes to make sure that that person is successful. And transformational leadership is effective on both performance and commitment. It has a higher degree of impact on organizational commitment, particularly on effective commitment. People want to work for these kinds of leaders. They want to work for them. So that's that for leadership, and hope you enjoyed that lecture. Oops, my video is off, but have a great one. We'll see you again in the next video.